Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and today I'm sharing with you ideas for opening activities. Now there are other videos in this series, so I hope that you'll check them out. You can find the complete list in the description box below, as well as all of the videos and all of the links for the resources that I'm sharing with you on the blog post that accompanies this video. Today we're diving into a few more resources for opening activities. Opening activities are activities that we do before we start our main lesson. They are usually short activities, and we don't take more than maybe 30 minutes to do these activities, but I am guilty of taking over an hour on some days, which is not advised. But these activities are short activities. They can be in math or language arts. They could be reading aloud. They can be musical instruments, but they are a way to transition students from one activity into your main lesson, especially if your children are young and especially if they're highly engaged in other activities that are very enjoyable for them. One of my favorite opening activity is to play a game, and I have a few games here to share with you. So the trick with games is to make sure that they're not going to take over your whole homeschool day. So I did not purposely bring for you Scrabble, Equate, even Tribulation. So some of those are language games, some of them are math games, and those ones are a little bit more involved. And I'm also sharing with you games that have an educational component rather than games that are maybe more entertainment geared. But you can also choose games that are physically engaging, like Twister, which is a game that we've played a few times in our homeschool. And that's a great way to get your body moving and just get the blood flowing, especially for those kinesthetic learners. They would love just getting their bodies moving that way before they sit down to do more of their head work. So some of the games that we really love are the Professor Noggin's trivia-based games. Now this is great for certain times, and this is not great for other times. So let me explain. The first thing is that this is trivia based. So if you don't know anything about the subject area, these games aren't going to work so well. So these are cards that are illustrated or they have photographs on the front. So this is, I believe, the older version. The updated version is a little bit different. And the back has questions. They have easy questions and hard questions, and they have the answers, of course. And they come with a dice, but I actually don't use the dice very often. And the way that we play this is that each of us, however many are playing, will get maybe 4 or 5 cards, and then we will just ask those questions, and then whoever gets the answer right gets to keep the card, and at the end we tally up how many cards we all have. So having it have a little bit of competitive edge is really great for some students. So some students love the idea of a competition when they're playing games, and other students, especially younger than 9, prefer cooperative games rather than competitive games. So if you want a cooperative game, the ones from Peaceable Kingdom are a great option, because then everyone is working together in order to accomplish the task, and the cooperation really works well for some students. If you have more of a competitive student, then something like the Professor Noggins or some of the other games that I have here might work a little bit better for your student. Now, the Professor Noggins game, when you're just playing a few cards, definitely a short opening activity. If you're going to play the whole deck, forget about it. That's going to take an hour, and then you've used up all of your time for your opening activity, and you've probably tired out your children, and at that point, they don't want to do a main lesson. If you want something that's great for geography, we have the 10 days game. So this one is the 10 days in Europe. They also have Asia, South America, North America, and Africa. And I really like these games because it's been so helpful in getting my children to learn the countries of the world and where they are located on what continent. And the cards themselves actually have a little bit more information as well. It tells you about the capital and the population. And so the cards are like this. They have the cards for each of the countries as well as the transportation cards. And the game is very easy to play. We do modify the rules a little bit to make it an even quicker game, because we really don't want to spend more than 10 to 15 minutes playing this. And with the modifications that we've done, where you can move the tiles on your game piece as often as you want within your within the game rather than just on your turn, this game can literally be done in like 5 to 8 minutes. So really great opening activity game that really doesn't take too long. Even if you're playing a few rounds of it, it's not going to eat up all of your opening activity time. If you want something that is not trivia based, but this one is science based, you can try this natural science bingo, and this is by Ebu. I love the Ebu products. I feel like they're just really well done, beautifully illustrated. And what I like about this is that it's not trivia based, and it's not even, I should say, you can make it educational if you'd like, but that's not part of the game. So it's just traditional bingo, but on the flip side of each of these tiles is some important information or some educational information about the tile itself. So I love that. If you want to add just a little bit of education to it, you can. Otherwise, it is just a really great game of bingo. And what I also like about this particular set, and I think pretty much everything by Ebu, is the quality, nice, thick tiles. Of course, if you have a toddler who's gnawing on the edge of this, it will get ruined. But for the most part, really good tiles, very good quality, and another great addition to your opening activities. Another game that I have, so I haven't shared with you, of course, we have a lot of games in our homeschool, but I'm sharing with you a variety of things so that you can find something that might work for you. A memory game is a fabulous opening activity game. Now, a lot of the trivia-based games, I find that adults or parents or teachers tend to have an advantage over the children. When it comes to memory games, the children have an advantage over the parents. Unless you're a very young parent, for the most part, children have an advantage. And it's really great for them to feel like they can be successful at a game where, like, for instance, bingo's a little bit more of a chance game. And even the 10 Days in Europe is a little bit of strategy and chance. But the Wonders of Science, Professor Noggin's game, this is going to be more trivia. So whoever has more knowledge in that subject area is going to have an advantage. But I find that playing memory, the children have the upper hand. And so this is just a very cute little memory game. It's called My Little Matching Game. And the illustrations are very Waldorf inspired. They're very beautiful and ethereal and very soft. And it's just a beautiful game. And then this is the backside. So one more option for playing games. And again, playing a game of memory, maybe 10 minutes max, so we're not utilizing too much of our opening activity time to play a game. I have some other games and activities that are math based. So we do have the 24 game primer. Now there are many in this series. This is a math game that in this case, you're trying to make the number 24. And on each of these tiles, you have numbers that you have to multiply or divide in order to make the number 24. And in some cases, you can add and subtract, multiply, and divide in order to make 24. So each of these cards comes with a little number or number of dots at the top to show how challenging the card is. So this one has 3 dots, so it's the most challenging. You have 1 dot, and then you have 2 dots as well. And then this one is for ages 8 and up. But honestly, I have a better time playing these games when I estimate about 2 to 3 or 4 years above the age that it says, like the lowest age. This would be really great for, like, say ages 10 and 11 and up, so that this game becomes more of a review rather than an introduction to the subject area. So we love including math games in our opening activities. And there are other ways for you to do this, but this one really helps sharpen your math skills while you're playing the game. And since there are many to choose from, you can certainly find one that's age appropriate for your children, because they have ones that are even for younger students, like say 6 and up. And then there are ones that are for even older students, like say 12 and up. If you want a math game that's less, I want to say trivia based, even though this is not so much trivia based, but you do need to know your math facts in order to do this. But you don't need math facts in order to play set. And I find this to be a fabulous game for really young students as well, because they, as soon as they learn how to play it, I find that they are as proficient at playing this as adults. So this is a game where you set out 12 cards and you have to make sets. And the sets, this is where it gets interesting. Let me put 2 more over here. The sets have to be a set of 3 cards where none of them can be the same, or all of them have to be the same. So no 2 cards can be the same. So let me just take an example of, like, say these 3. Okay, so all 3 of them have 2, so that's great. All 3 of them are different colors. That's great. However, 2 of them have the same shading, so this would not be a set. But if I use this one, now we have all 3 of them the same number. We have all 3 of them the same shape. Doing good. All 3 of them different colors. Great. All 3 of them different shading. Great. This makes a set. So that's how you play this game. It's very engaging. We never play this halfway. We almost play the entire game with all the cards, and we end up, this might take maybe at most 20 minutes, maybe less. But once you get in the hang of it, sets come very, very quickly. So maybe even 10 minutes at times. Another math game is called Ubongo, and this one is the small size of this game. You can also get the full size, and this is where you have these tiles that you have to arrange on the cards, and each card is different. They have 2 different levels, so there's I don't know if they go by A and B or by 3 and 4, but they have different intensities. And then you have your tiles that you have to arrange on the card so that all of the spaces are filled. So another really great, somewhat logic puzzle type of game that's great for all ages, or for multiple ages, I should say, that's not trivia based or skill based. So this really engages like younger students who can learn how to play, as well as your older students. If your older students or younger students need something that's a little bit more active, I love using the bean bags or maybe a felted ball to toss back and forth while you do math facts or skip counting. So if your child needs to get up and move for their opening activities, using bean bags is a great option to do that. You can also do clapping if you'd like, although my kids really liked the bean bags. And then we'll use mental math as part of our opening activities. So mental math, usually we'll do a few questions a day for our mental math. They tend to be 2-part questions, but not always. And with the very basic, so 1st to 3rd grade, so this is a mental math curriculum that you can find on my website, and the link is in the description box below if you want to try these ones out. These are things that I did for my kids many years ago, and then I collected it into a format that I could share with others. And so this would be an opportunity to go over math facts and 2-part questions that require the student to hold part of the question in their mind as they're working out the answer. What I like about the younger grades too is you can give them a question like, how do you make 20, for instance? And there are so many answers. You could do 2 times 10, you could do 22 minus 2, you could do 10 plus 10. There's so many different ways to do this, and it really calls into it allows the students to really start to think a little bit more, broadly on how to put these numbers together, rather than just saying what's 2 times 10. It's going to be 20. That's a very one path way to find a solution. But if you're like, oh, how do we make 5? That makes it a little bit more intriguing for a child. So I have grades 1 to 3, I have grades 3 to 5, and then I think 4 to 8 is the other one that's a little bit more has questions that are a little bit harder, fractions and decimals, etc. And then they all, I think, include some money problems as well, and time problems as well. So telling time and calculating money. And I don't think all of them do. Just for international audience, I think that the grades 3 to 5 doesn't have any money questions, but the other ones do. Now, for our math, if you don't want to do mental math this way, where you're using a curriculum, you can use a book called Number Chains. And this is pretty much the same thing, but a little bit different. So these number chains, they start with one number. For instance, you start with 17, you're adding 55, you're doing half of this, dividing by 2, 1/3 of this, plus 50%, plus 57, and then you have the result, and in the back you have all of the answers. And this is a really great way to do questions that are slightly more challenging. They're still one step at a time. You're not saying the entire question at once. And then some of these math problems might be a little bit more challenging than, say, some of the basic ones that you might do for younger students. So you could maybe do this from, like, say, middle elementary and up, or upper elementary and middle school for some of these kinds of questions. You can also make your own mental math by using ChatGPT, and I have a video on how you can do that, and you can find the link to that video in the description box below. If you don't want to buy any resources, you can make your own mental math for free. I also have this really beautiful math board. This is for the multiplication tables. And what I like to use this for, aside from just using it to memorize the math facts, is that typically I'll dump the entire thing out. And this might take several days to do this, but I'll have several of the tiles or blocks. And then I might say, what makes 50, and, 5 times 10 makes 50, but if it's, say, a number like 48, there's a few different ways to go about that. So I'll accept any answer for some of the other ones, like 12, for instance. There's many ways to make 12, but it's all multiplication. We're not doing division. And so I'll have these, and then we'll either say, what makes 30, or we'll say, what's 10 times 3? And then as we get the answer, so she'll ask a question, I'll ask a question, and then we pop it back into the correct slot. So by the time we're playing the whole game, we can have everything back where it belongs. And I like that it's color coded, so it makes it a little bit easier to find where all of these blocks go. This is definitely not something for really young children. I believe this would be a very bad choking hazard. So this is something that you're taking care of if you have younger children, but you want to use this for your older children, or that if you just have older children, then it's okay. Don't want to step on any of these if they get left on the carpet, so do be careful. And also it makes it a very fun, engaging game to play with multiple students, because you can either play this as whoever gets the first answer correct, then they actually get to keep tally of that, or it's we're working in community to try to get all of the answers right and get it back together so that all the pieces are back in the block. So this is definitely something that you want to keep an eye out for when you are playing this game, so that you don't lose pieces, because it comes, of course, with 144 pieces if you get the 12 times table. Opening activities is another great time to practice your musical instruments. I have 2 musical instruments here. One is a recorder and one is a drum. In our homeschool, we did not do music lessons, but in Waldorf education, you'll find that you start music lessons in grade 1 with the recorder, and later on with some string instruments. And while we haven't done any lessons, on occasion, we do like to pull out the musical instruments that we have, but it's more for just fun and enjoyment rather than to practice a skill. If you are in music lessons, or your child is in music lessons, then taking a little bit of time in your opening activities, maybe less than 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to practice maybe a song that they've been working on, or maybe some skills that they are working on within their lessons, then doing that in your opening activities might be a valuable use of time to practice a skill that you're only doing for a little bit of time every day, and then you're saving the actual lesson for your music at another time of day. So if you're doing music lessons on a weekly basis or a couple of times a week, then you're going to need to find time to practice what you are learning. And opening activities might be a good time, but again, you want to just limit it to maybe less than 15 minutes so that you're not tiring your student out with too much variety and too much work that's going to really require a lot of effort on their part. I hope you enjoy this look at our opening activities ideas. I hope that you'll check out the blog post that accompanies this video that has all of the details for these different categories of opening activity ideas, as well as links to all of the resources that I shared with you today. You could find the link to that blog post in the description box below. And if you'd like to see how we're doing our opening activities on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram and now on TikTok at Pepper and Pine.